mindless negativity that's in this town sucks.
This is the sports gods often have a sick sense of humor. Leader fan radio network.
What do you mean?
And KFAN.com, Ricky Rubio. 3 minutes, 1 second past 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. It is a Tuesday edition of the Bumper to Bumper program. Guardsy produces the show. My name is Dan Barreiro, former Ainstein Wretch newspaper of the Twin Cities, the Star Tribune. We are delighted you are along for today's ride. Very good guest lineup today. The uglydeck.com guest lineup will be passed along to you, as we like to say, presently. But I have to say, Guardsy, I don't even know where to begin regarding the basketball, in this case, basketball gods. I said sports gods, but let's narrow it to basketball gods. How do they work? What dictates the way they move the pieces around and who they help and who they destroy, who they enhance and who they just toy with? How is it determined? I mean, do they have a meeting? Is it once a month? Is it once a week? And what prompts them to make some of the incredibly fateful moves and decisions that they make? That was I guess that's what I was saying to myself, talking to myself last night, as I, like everybody else, had that epiphany moment where Victor Wembanyama barely crosses midcourt, jacks up a three, and makes it, ultimately helping the San Antonio Spurs, Davey, without one of their most accomplished scorers and experienced players, your guy, De'Aaron Fox, to take game one over the defending champion, allegedly unbeatable, Oklahoma City Thunder. I hate tanking. I'm repulsed by tanking. I have tended to savage the teams that tank. But, man, sometimes you realize that it's not just swimming upstream. It's like trying to climb Everest to fight it. The San Antonio Spurs, Davey, today, last night, do they suffer from any guilt? From their own episodic tanking that, in the first place, helped them secure the services of the guy who hit that 30-foot three-point shot last night? How do they sleep at night? They sleep okay? Because I'm guessing they don't give it a second thought. And where the sports gods come in here is, you'd like to think, okay, that's enough. We got him. We gave him Victor. Got a good tradition of maximizing top picks. We're going to give him another slice at the top pick, right? Another shot. But if you want to talk about, well, maybe not pure luck, maybe partly design, a more passive form of responsible tanking. What did the Spurs know even after they selected Victor? We can get several more lottery picks if we do this right. How are we going to do this right? Well, the first year, you don't have to do much because we still stink even with Wemby, right? So we're going to have a bad enough record where we're going to end up in the lottery again. But you know what else we're going to do? And this might not have been conscious, and I'm not saying they caused a blood clot in Wemby last year, but the basketball gods did.
They did.
They said, you know what? What would be the best of all possible worlds for the Spurs? Continue to nurture Victor, get him some experience in the court, but limit him to, let's say, 46 games last season. Because you know what that's going to do? That's going to guarantee that even in his second year, they're not going to make a big enough jump, or as big a jump as maybe they should make. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to give them another shot at the lottery. And not only another shot at the lottery, we're going to move them up 6 spaces in the lottery. They moved up 6 spots. The Wolves have never moved up 6 spots. They've often moved down 3 spots in their history. So in addition to Wemby, they get your guy, Stephon Castle, who killed us, especially in the deciding Game 6.
Yeah, he's good.
And Harper.
Dylan Harper.
Ron Harper's kid.
Also good.
Tremendous defensive player. This guy's going to be a better all-around player, plus he's healthier. And at moments like that, when it crystallizes again, you put it all together, I can't blame fans of other teams, including Wolves fans, to say, why? What's so special about San Antonio Davy? Because they did get, think about it, the best of all worlds. Now, no one, I think, will ever suggest that a blood clot is a blessing in disguise, right? But in the end, that's how it served the San Antonio Spurs. They get not 1, not 2, but 3 significant slices of the apple, 2 after they get the guy who's being hailed as, it's already been determined by the basketball experts, the greatest player in the history of the planet.
It's true.
I still think that's a little premature, but I get where they mean, because we've not seen anything like him. Right? There's been no one who has his blend of skills and height.
And intangibles.
And intangibles seems very.
Yeah.
He seems to have more angst and perceived contrived enemies already than Michael Jordan did his whole life. And Michael Jordan had a bunch. He was in triple digits. This guy's already making them up as he goes along, and he's 12. So today, if you're a Wolves fan going, man, what did we do? And they're not the only team. We're not the only franchise that feels hamstrung. But it is uncanny, is it not, that you'd like to think the way the gods would work is, again, we're going to give you an all-time great player, and then that's it. You're not getting anything else. You have to do the rest of it on your own, right? They get 2 other. Last night, as I understand it, with Fox on the bench, they made history last night. The Spurs started, this is the scary and depressing part, the youngest starting 5 in the history of the conference finals.
Yeah.
And they won on the road against the defending champions.
Other than that,
I mean, you tell me.
Well, 2 things. The team they're playing also benefited from multi-year tanking.
They were you could argue, they originated the whole thing.
And they've got multiple
in the best way possible.
Top 5 picks.
Yes.
And in a way, I could understand why they got rewarded by the sports gods, because they had signed a player, Paul George, or acquired a player, Paul George, who then didn't want to play there and was orchestrated by Kawhi Leonard to go to the Clippers. And so they had to trade him. What did they get in return? They got 5 picks, I think it was. So you can see why the basketball gods would maybe reward that.
Yes.
Right? And say, look, you got kind of dealt a bad hand. Someone's going to offer a bunch of picks. SGA, I think, was the one player coming from the Clippers. But here's what's even more, I think, depressing about the San Antonio Spurs part of it. They're coming off an era where they won how many titles?
5, I think, yeah.
And how did they acquire Tim Duncan?
David Robinson got hurt.
Exactly. They were already a good team.
Yeah.
Not a great team, maybe not a title team. Robinson gets hurt, breaks his foot. You can't do anything about that.
Are you alleging
maybe
that it was a Galooly kind of a thing?
Maybe Pop.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe he took him down the same escalator on the Riverwalk where you shattered your ankle. Maybe that was like the Riverwalk ankle where you were shattered. But they were, and that's the year they get Tim Duncan, and the rest is history, right? Like their one bad year changed the franchise forever. And so they're getting this on the heels of that.
On that.
Which is amazing.
It's like a second go-around with it.
It's like Favre to Rodgers.
Again, I'm sure they were very concerned about the blood clot. They're very, it's like, it couldn't have worked out any better for them. It guaranteed they weren't going to make enough of a jump. And then, even by lottery standards, they move up 6. Closer to 6-1-2 guy, this isn't. I don't go down the it's fixed road. That's not my road at all. I have nothing to do with everything's fixed. Zero to do with my discussion today. I'm playing with, clearly the sports gods don't exist, right? But it's easy to feel like they might when you are on one end of it and you observe all of the remarkable good fortune that some franchises just seem to continually get. That's it. No, I don't. The fixed stuff does nothing for me. It's not in any way, shape, or form anything I'm interested in playing with or having fun with. I'm just saying it's stunning how it works out for some teams and doesn't for others. And again, historians are going to look at it like, well, once they got Wemby, let's say he goes down as the greatest player ever, the assumption will be when historians look back in 75 years, they go, well, then they had to do the rest of it on their own, right? After they got Wemby, everything changed. Well, not exactly, because they were still crappy enough the first year he played a bunch of games that they knew they were in the lottery. And then he missed enough games the next year that they were in the lottery again, and then they moved up again in the lottery. So it is remarkable, and it's undeniable. We'll talk about this. Mitch Lawrence is going to join us at 3:30, that OKC may have done that better than anybody. And they don't get talked about as much anymore because enough time goes by, and what happens is if you're good enough, long enough, the subject changes, the story changes. And it is fair to say, in fairness to OKC and in fairness to San Antonio Davey, they have, both those franchises have maximized, they've taken, because there's no guarantee you're going to take full advantage of all of the things you have planned.
They made a lot of the right picks.
A number of the right, it's undeniable. They've made a number of the right picks. So you could say also that, well, yeah, there's other teams, other franchises that have had some pretty good luck. What have they done with it? They've tended to squander it. They've maximized in ways like we have never seen before. One other, well, I'll tell you what, let's break, and then I'll get to, I'm going to go into old man mode when we come back, though, on one aspect of Wemby and his ongoing emerging as a pretty much unstoppable player. After a game last night that, again, for sheer competitiveness, drama, high level, even though actually there were a lot of turnovers, but high level excitement, it's going to go down, I probably would think, even in the next 25 years, as literally one of the greatest conference championship round games ever played.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. You can enter the keyword coin at KFAN.com to enter. It's our first keyword of the day. KFAN.com. Make the keyword coin.
Bumper to Bumper with Dan Barreiro on the Fan.
From the 1-800 Ask Gary.
What's the backstory regarding what is being described in some circles as Wemby's visceral hatred for our guy, Chet Holmgren? Well, is there a backstory? I seem to remember reading something. It goes back to when they were both playing in, I don't even know what, All-Star games. Or there was something that, speaking again of chip on the shoulder, has left Wemby wanting to, at every turn possible, embarrass Holmgren, to run him into the ground, to reduce him to quivering jello.
Windhorse talked about this yesterday because he's been like the Wemby chronicler for like 5 years, going over to France. Basically.
Once upon a time, he was the LeBron chronicler.
That's what brought him to fame.
Smart man.
He's good.
He knows who to epoxy himself to.
But it was some international tournament.
Okay.
Where Chet won the MVP, and I think Chet's team,
He's
USA,
never forgiven that decision.
There was a picture of the two of them, I think, last night.
Yeah.
Or maybe I saw it on ESPN yesterday. I can't remember. And I think that was part of it. That's what Windhorse said. He says, I promise you, Victor does not forget that. And I just think that they've played so often, too. I'm sure there's disdain and distrust and disgust between the two of them.
I think Chet needs to join the battle a little bit more.
I agree with you.
I do. I really. Now, again, we're talking about a guy I don't think anybody can compare to his blend, to Wemby's blend, probably. More on that old man rant in a minute. But now, this might be strategic, but it looked as if, how much did he guard him? Did they even assign him to guard Wemby?
I think they did in the first half or first quarter.
Right.
At some point, though, they put Caruso on him. Yeah. At some point, they made the switch and just let Caruso try to deal with him, and he did his best. Yeah. And then the Spurs figured that out. Chet had one great play, the block. At the end of it saved, it took the game into OT. Wasn't that at the end of regulation? Yes.
That was a hell of a help play.
It was.
But man, it's unfair to say to him, Chet, go be as good as Wemby. Mm-hmm. I get that, but I think he's got to be better. I think in some way, and I don't know, maybe it's in his head too. Maybe it's gotten in his head a little bit that he sees exactly what's happening. Real quick, somebody via text made this point, and it's also a good one, regarding the Spurs. And you can say any of the teams that when they've been lucky enough to get the most lotto balls and get the number one pick, it's in a season in which the number one choice is obvious, right? I mean, that's
a lot of times.
That's a big part of it, is you can get number one. It's like, there's a bunch of guys that might be pretty good, but there's nobody viewed like Tim Duncan was viewed, correct? Nobody viewed like David Robinson was viewed. Nobody who was even viewed like LeBron was, go down the list, right? That is part of it too. And why it's so remarkable to me is that I don't believe it is fixed. That's what makes it so stunning, that for whatever reason, the way the gods work, they decide to smile in some cases on others. It's not a whine. Somebody said, I'm like whining on behalf of the Wolves. It's not a whine. It's just pointing out facts. It's part of the landscape that sadly has more to do with luck and the sports gods than it does design or skill. And as I said earlier, to their credit, they've maximized. You can't argue about that. In Oklahoma City, Presti has made so many moves that go beyond this that it's hard to fixate on that now, right?
Yep.
What do they have, like 18 number ones for the next 9 years or something? Still in their back pocket?
They continue to have a bunch.
And it's whenever they pick now, they get a player, too. Allegedly, there's like 4 guys on their bench that a lot of people think would be rotation players in like 80% of the teams around the league. I don't know if that's hyperbole, if there's something to it, but it's believable.
Sounds good to say, and it is believable because they put guys in there that just plug and play, it seems like.
Yes.
Guys that you don't even really recognize that know what they're supposed to do and do it really well.
We'll agree. Well, we'll talk about it in more detail with Mitch, that it was high basketball drama at its finest.
The whole night between the Game 7 and the hockey, which also went overtime.
You doubted my Canadiens.
Great jerseys.
Yeah.
On the road in Buffalo. We do need to do at some point some type of Buffalo simulcast or like Buffalo roundtable where we just compare misery.
Yeah, that's true.
So what do we do here?
Yeah.
So that was awesome. And then you flip it over. And the Spurs, by the way, pretty much had that game in control for a long stretch.
They did.
They were up 7-10 most of the game.
It was going to be thievery.
Yeah, so when I flipped over to get back to overtime, and then you saw Buffalo score, I go, all right, let's see what's going on. Let's see if the Spurs are bringing this one home. And it was like 92-90. I'm like, oh, wow. Oklahoma City got themselves back into it. And then you figure the game's going to end, and it didn't for like another hour. It was an awesome night. It was an unbelievable night. And I'll say the cliche that everybody says, give me 6 more games of it.
Yeah.
Because it was just, it wasn't, like you said, perfect all the time. There were turnovers. There were mistakes. But that's going to happen when you've got 2 teams just beating the hell out of each other.
If I'm not mistaken, the MVP who got the trophy at the start of the night, he had a Julius Randle-like shooting night, didn't he? I mean, he missed a lot of shots.
It was like 7-23.
It's open season on Julius. I'm sorry. By the way,
nice
Tim
play
Conley.
to tie it, though, by the way.
That's true.
A really nice play to tie it.
That's true.
When they needed it.
Undeniable. Tim Conley spoke today. We're going to get to more of that later. You may even have some sound to that effect. Here's the old man yells at cloud part of this segment. I am not in any way minimizing what Wemby seems to represent. Because, again, we've seen 7-foot guys before. We've seen 7'3" guys before. We've seen, some people think, by the way, he's more like 7'7" than 7'5". I don't know what's true. But he's well over 7 feet. We know that, right? We've never seen this blend, this melange of skills. I totally get why people, in that sense, are losing their minds. Because that's what we keep hearing. We've never seen anything like it. I'm going to remind you, and I brought this up before when Wemby mania I thought was a little premature. We forget, and some of you are too young to remember, so I can't blame you. But there are a lot of old-time basketball observers who should know better. When Lou Alcindor came into the league, became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, we had never seen anybody like him as a big. We've seen other 7-footers. We had never seen a player of his skill who had one shot, a pet shot, that has not been duplicated on a consistent basis before or since. The sky hook. Go back and watch. In fact, I ran into the Celtics, that Celtics-Lakers ESPN documentary, which is very good. And I think it was Bird. This was when the Lakers finally broke through and beat the Celtics for the first time in Boston to win that series. This would have been, I'm thinking, 85, I believe. In any case, it's like an 18-foot sky hook baseline that he makes to clinch the victory. Go back, boys and girls, look at that shot, and then tell me we've never seen anything like Wemby. Because the truth is, we've never seen a single shot, even a big man at that point, with that kind of touch on that particular shot before or since. All I'm asking is we keep those things in perspective and not lose our minds as if we're watching history. We've watched history before. We forget about it or we come to take it for granted.
Yeah.
But check out the game. There's nobody who else tries on a consistent basis on purpose the sky hook?
Nobody
does it. Mitch Lawrence.
We never saw Magic. We never saw LeBron. Like, there's different guys, but
Absolutely.
That's a good example. And I agree with you so much that I wanted his autograph at the 1992 Final Four, and he didn't give it to me. So I can't go.
Well, you talked about the bucket list of guests. That should be on the list. We should get Kareem on.
I have his email.
I know. He responded once, you said, politely, but
yes.
It was a firm no.
At the time,
At the time. Maybe there's another shot.
I'll send him this segment. Not my part. I'll send him your part of this segment.
I'd be very careful
I'll
what you
edit
include.
myself out.
Mitch Lawrence covered a whole lot of Kareem. He's got some thoughts on Wemby and maybe why the Wolves want to move to the Eastern Conference. Maybe some leftover observations on how the Wolves season ended and where they can trade Julius Randle. So let's do this. Let's get a pause in as we speak and chat with Mitch next here in The Fan.
You're listening to Barreiro on The Fan.
Search the Renee Stubbs Tennis Podcast on iHeartRadio, America's #1 podcast network, and the Webby Pod.
Outstanding guest lineup today. Lou Nanne is going to join us. He's back in Minnesota. That's the headline. And he's going to be in studio with us starting in the 5 o'clock hour of the show. Plenty of post-mortem on the Minnesota Wild, beginning with Louie in the 5. Lou Ragoose, Carol Levin, intrepid reporter, will join at 4:15 today. There's some A-section stuff to get to with him, a bunch, in fact. Mitch Lawrence joins us now via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Mitch, as we welcome you back, when was your last year still being based in New York?
2021, basically.
So
moved down.
Did you cover, how much did you cover Julius Randle as a Knickerbocker?
Really didn't. I was just observed from afar.
Okay.
He had, I think they had one very good year, but he obviously was a guy who a lot of Knicks fans grew tired of, didn't like the way he played in a lot of ways, and they were ecstatic to have him leave. With Dante DiVincenzo, they weren't that happy about losing one of the Villanova guys, one of the Villanova Knicks. But to get Karl Anthony Towns, I think the majority of Knicks, because of how Julius kind of wore out his welcome very quickly, they were happy with the deal from that standpoint. And right now, that deal looks like a winner because Karl Anthony Towns, Dan, is and you know what? I mean, it's amazing. He used to be foul prone. Well, he's still a little bit now, but high turnovers, low assists. He's completely turned that around during this Nick run in the first 2 rounds where he's averaging like 7 assists and 2 turnovers per playoff game. And still, he's not doing 25 points. He's doing 15 or 17. But his actual floor game is a key to why the Knicks are where they are because they're not so reliant on Jalen Brunson.
The stat I read somewhere was that already through the first 2 rounds, he had more than doubled his assist total from the entire Knicks playoff run a year ago. It's been really transformational. And, look, a lot of Knicks fans last year were down on Karl Anthony Towns because they didn't see the floor game they're seeing now, the all-around game, setting up people, his passing, But now people are ready to give him a parade, especially if they get to a finals. Of course, we'll see how they do against Cleveland. They're the heavy favorites, I think. But Cleveland will be a dangerous team for them. But no, Karl Anthony Towns right now, and he's a local guy from Central Jersey. That's true, yeah.
And that obviously goes a long way. So everybody's in love. Everybody's in love with the Knicks. The guy I kind of feel for in all this is Tom Thibodeau, because, he was basically in this position last year.
Right.
They lost Indiana in 6, and then he got fired. He was the fall guy, and now he's saying a team that actually has a better bench, and Mike Brown's done some things with the offense that I think was better than what Tom was doing. But anyway, they improved what they needed to do. Tom didn't have the bench that he had. Most of the guys on his bench from last year are out of the league. And you see where they are against an East that really was there for the taking, if you think about it.
I bring up Randall for reasons that probably should be obvious. Wolves wrap up. They get killed, actually, in 3 of the 6 games.
Yeah.
They had injury. Anthony Edwards was not 100%. It's undeniable. You mentioned Dante, not available at all. Spurs are better. Julius Randle, though, it's been a stunning stretch here, Mitch, because if you go back to the playoff run last year, the first 2 series, he terrorized opponents. He was definitely part of what got them there. So it's not as if he's universally bad, but when he's bad, when he goes south, it drags everything and everybody down. And we saw that at the end, or really throughout this last series, that he's one of those guys that it's almost like he's got a shelf life every place he goes.
Oh, you're right. You're right. Saw that in New York, saw that in other places he's been, and he has bounced around. He is talented, obviously, but the playoffs, he's one of these guys. Sometimes he's cut out for the playoffs, and sometimes he's not. He's not one of these guys you can count on all the time in the playoffs, especially against certain teams. So I think the Timberwolves are going to have to make a decision about what they're going to do with him.
Yeah.
I'm sure right now, there's probably, I don't know about internally, but I'm sure the fans, like the fans in New York, they want to see him go.
Let me ask you, it was, in fact, if you go to the last 2 elimination series for the Wolves the last 2 years, last year was OKC, this year San Antonio. And by the way, for 2 straight years, they might end up losing to the team that wins it all. Nevertheless, 5 games in those 2 series combined 15 for 69 and 15 turnovers. It's just, he can't be a number 2 guy. I think we now know that conclusively, and they're going to try to move him. The question is, for what and in what combo? Now, you're based in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, correct?
That's right.
I'm going to bring you give you a name that John Krasinski, who covers the Wolves brilliantly for The Athletic and joins us every week. You know John. You've probably been on Sirius with him from time to time. One of the names he brought up, Giannis is the obvious name, but who knows whether he wants to be here. It's complicated, etc. But we brought up yesterday a different name that I'm curious to get any intel you might have on his availability and how dangerous it would be to even try to get him if he was available. Kyrie Irving. Because you can make the argument he represents exactly what the Wolves need to do to move Anthony back to off guard, a guy who, was playing at a very high level before he got hurt, seemed to be maturing, as you and I talked about. Any reason to believe that Dallas wants to move on from him? It would seem counterintuitive, even though he's at a very different age, obviously, than the young star.
Have a new sheriffs in town,
True.
And that's Masai Ujiri, who replaces, Nico Harrison, who got run out of town after the Luka trade.
Yep.
And so I think the preliminary feelings out, or the talk surrounding Masai, is they want to keep him. But I think right now you have to say that because, he's coming off I think it's an
Achilles.
ACL.
I thought it was Achilles, wasn't it?
Oh, it was an Achilles? Okay, it's one or the other.
Guards, look it up.
Now,
it was a serious issue. Yeah,
serious injury. And prior to that, he had been, unlike his previous stops in basically everywhere he'd been, most notably Brooklyn, Kyrie had kind of been a pain in the butt.
That's absolutely true.
And that's just the way it is with him. Well, here he's turned it totally around. Kind of a fan favorite, says all the right things, loves it here. So you have that working for you. But I think Masai, and I think Jason Kidd likes him a lot too. But the interesting thing is, when he becomes healthy here, will they have him play some games to look at him in terms of how he does with Cooper Flagg?
Right.
Or are they going to say, let's build up his value, prove he can play, and then move him? I am of the opinion that's what they should do. They should move him if they can, especially if he shows that he can still be effective, because you're on a different timetable with Cooper Flagg and Kyrie. Plus, you have to take into account the other teams in the West, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
You're not all of a sudden going to be competing with San Antonio and Oklahoma City. You might not be competing with, Houston and Denver or Minnesota. So we'll see what happens with Masai. Masai's got a lot of, it's very interesting. I think they did a right thing by hiring Masai. You got to remember about Masai. He can be tough with his coaches. He did some, you hear about what he did in Toronto at halftime, bursting into the coach's room to read his coach the riot act about what he wanted to see done. And I don't think Jason Kidd's going to go for that. And, Jason Kidd tried to get the job that they gave to Masai. And, it's typical Jason Kidd. He tried to undermine Billy King in Brooklyn and get his job as the GM. In Milwaukee, it was the same situation. And Masai knows that. And so I think, listen, he could be on the move. I don't think, I wouldn't put it past them if not, I'm not saying before the season, but I just don't know if those two guys could really successfully, I'm talking about Masai Ujiri and Jason Kidd, get along. But anyway, back to Kyrie. I think it's a possibility. I wouldn't rule it out.
You are right. It was Gargi checked. It was an ACL, not. I got Achilles on the brain. I think because there've been so many of them. But you were right. ACL.
That's the injury du jour at the NBA.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
right.
That's absolutely true. As you watch the Wolves from afar, what do you see? Because there's two ways to go. The old, all right, we got to get another superstar next to Anthony, and then there are folks who say, that's kind of a tired approach, the top-heavy approach. What you got to do is you got to fill in. You obviously have to try to get rid of Randall. Maybe you move on Rudy, depending on, if you like the kid quickly this year. Barrenjay, if he's ready to play yet, because he is an interesting-looking big man, but he's still a little green. And so does one way make more sense to you than the other, again, depending on availability? Do you try to go top-heavy, or do you say, no, get him a point guard at least who can put, Anthony off the ball, just continue to try to add some talent at other positions and depth, and don't sell the farm in order to go out, let's say, and to give yourself the best chance to go get Giannis?
Yeah, I'm not so sure about Giannis at this stage. I think it's a mistake for teams, unless you're really I got a great chance to win right now to add him. But I'd stay away from John Morant.
That name came up yesterday. You can get him cheap.
For the obvious reasons. I just can't deal with him and his off-court stuff.
Yeah.
His play has regressed. You got to put up with his old man, who's a load unto himself. So I think the smart move for Minnesota is try to move Julius, see what can you move Gobert? Maybe, probably not at this stage, but upgrade the point guard situation and go from there. And then you're kind of like, you're in a tough position because you've got the West with the top two teams in Oklahoma City and San Antonio. I mean, they look like they're going to be fighting for the top for the next few years. So, you almost, I don't think Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry are going to do this, but you almost say to yourself, well, let's just strip it down and keep Anthony Edwards.
We talked about that yesterday too.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, because man, like, what are you going to do in the Western Conference? You're going to, and you got Denver still. So, but it's really the two teams, especially with Victor now, because what we saw last night, it's like, oh man, he's now. I mean, this is now becoming has Oklahoma City's window closed type of talk, which is nuts.
Yes,
and like it goes on. Here's what I say about the Timberwolves. Has their application to move to the East been expedited over last night?
Here's knowing the Wolves, what's going to happen to them? We're going to find out that they actually tried to slip some money under the table to the people who have to make that decision. And unlike any other team, of course, they would get caught doing it, and they'll lose 5 more number ones and not get moved to the East. That would be typical Wolves luck, trying to get these sorts of schemes done,
As someone who's been up from Minnesota for a long time, I could see how that could come to mind.
Yes, that's for sure.
The old Glenn Taylor smoking gun.
Yes,
Joe Smith. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. But no, I mean, listen, last night was like, well, just watching that play out and watching I'm going back in my head thinking, all right, he's 22. This is his 11th playoff game.
Right.
It's nuts. It is absolutely nuts to see what he's doing.
It is. It was gratifying because the level of competition, I think, was so high. We were talking about a lot of turnovers at times, but you're seeing it play out in real time, right? And saying it's depressing perhaps to the rest of the league, but to basketball people like yourself, you're going, man, this is what you live for.
Hey, let me tell you, if you're Adam Silver,
yes,
this guy has not only, it's like the regular season featuring the FBI, gambling scandal, featuring teams tanking beyond belief, the players sitting out games. That's all forgot. This guy makes you forget that. And if you're wondering, gee, who can we have who's going to succeed LeBron James and, Durant, even Steph Curry? Wow. You're looking at no worries, guys. We got Victor Wembanyama and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but mostly this guy because what he does at both ends of the court. Have you seen a guy who can impact the games like this and wreck games at both ends of the court? And you think about the all-time guys. You think about, look, Magic in what he did, obviously Jordan, Tim Duncan, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yes.
I'm watching the game last night thinking he's 22 years old. He's hardly ever played in the playoffs, and he's already he's on the road in game 1 against the defending champs and putting up these kind of numbers in a win. When Oklahoma City, by the way, at the end of that first overtime, had numerous chances to add to a little lead and totally look like nothing. They didn't look like anything but a championship team. They kind of, to me, blew the game. But they took advantage of it, San Antonio. And he's got that. The other great thing about Wembanyama I love, he's got nastiness about him, which all the greats have.
He does. It's undeniable, right? He's got that edge because what's kind of sometimes been the rap on some prior big men. You even go back to like Ralph Sampson. You go, very skilled, but he just doesn't seem to have much of that edge. And some of that might not have been fair, but we talk about gentle giants all the time. He's nasty. We were talking earlier. This grievance he has with Holmgren, whether it's fair to Chet or not, about the MVP award in one of those tournaments. It's like it looks like he wants to kill him every time down the court if he's matched up with him.
It reminds me of guys like Michael Jordan, especially Michael Jordan, who always, whether it was true or created in his own mind, had a chip on his shoulder against somebody.
Right.
for something that they perceived either was done against them or perceived to be against them.
Often invented.
And used that.
Yeah.
And this whole deal with Chet Holmgren, and last night when SGA gets his, I think it was a well-deserved MVP, but Victor's standing there going, guess what? I'm going to show everybody now who the real MVP is.
Right, yeah.
And he does that. So you got to love that. That's the thing that really makes these type of guys special, is that once a guy like this comes in once in a great while and you go, wow, here we go. This guy's something special.
The stat I also read was that with Wemby off the floor, the Thunder were 10 for 17 from the floor, and when he was on the floor, they were 31 for 84. Not surprising, but that's pretty remarkable.
54% to 37%.
Yeah.
I mean, and he didn't have his first foul until 6 minutes into the fourth quarter.
Right.
That's the problem for Oklahoma City. And that's the problem, or that's what comes up when you talk to the coaches who go against the greats. How are we going to get this guy off the floor?
Yes.
Because he never commits fouls. They never call fouls on the guy. Michael Jordan and the Knicks, every time the Knicks, they couldn't get, and teams couldn't get Tim Duncan off the floor. Same thing, because the guy's either smart enough or he, plays, however it goes. Those are the guys. And last night he played, 49 minutes. So he is here. It's not like he's coming. He's already here.
The other thing, Mitch, we were talking about off the top of the show is the mysterious ways in which the basketball gods work, because they get Wemby, but they probably knew that, all right, we're still going to be bad enough the first year that we're going to end up with another lottery pick. And then Wemby misses a significant amount of last season, which went what?
Right.
They're right back in a good spot in the lottery. They moved up 6 spots last year to get Harper's kid, who might already be their second best player. And that's no insult to Castle, who's absurdly good. That's who they got the year after Wemby. And that, to me, in other cities, we were talking, that's the depressing part, is you get that San Antonio luck, based a little bit, of course, on tanking previously. And then the gods say, it's not enough, we're going to give you Wemby. We're going to give you two other, now those players had to be selected, but two other great players. They started the youngest team with Fox out of the lineup in the history of the conference finals last night, Mitch, and they did not look at all daunted.
And a lot of people think Castle's the best perimeter defender in the league right now.
He was terrific against the Wolves.
Atlanta took the French kid, Richachet.
Yes.
I think he went 1 overall. Castle went, 3, 4, whatever. And people in Atlanta, if you're like, why did we take this guy and not Castle? And then you mentioned the Dylan Harper guy who goes to the basket and plays like he's been around 10 years.
Yes, it's stunning.
I mean, obviously, you could tell that although he talks about his mother and she was a player or whatever, you're the son of Ron Harper. You got some lessons early in life about how you deal with, adversity and how you just play basketball. Because Ron Harper, you remember Ron Harper. We're old enough to remember when he didn't have knee problems, what he was like and what he could have been.
No question.
But then what he became, especially on those great Bulls teams with Michael and Scotty and Dennis Rodman. And, I mean, this kid is just phenomenal. There are people back in New Jersey, my old stomping ground, who are saying, gee, we had, Ron Harper's kid and that Ace Bailey guy. We didn't even make the tournament at Rutgers. Like, what the hell? Well, Harper was hurt a lot, but, I mean, you get the point.
I do.
It's like, but I'm telling you, the Spurs right now, I mean, they're in an interesting position because without the Aaron Fox, they win the opener, obviously. They probably know they might have to win another game in Oklahoma City because I don't think Oklahoma City is going to lose in a quick series.
I don't either.
I think they're going to go into San Antonio because they've won on the road and they're going to win a game down there. So the Spurs are probably like, we got to get 2 here. And who knows when it'll be. But that series is just everything we thought it would be. But it went to another level because of the Wembley. When he hit the Curry 3, the 28, tie the game at the end of the first. I mean, I didn't think it was a bad shot because the way he played, I said, this guy's going to make it.
Yeah.
You might have felt the same way, Dan. It's like when you know somebody is on a roll with that type of greatness, you're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it absolutely does. It wouldn't once upon a time, but I think it kind of does now. Yeah. Do you view if you're picking the Knicks, whoever you're picking in the East, Do you view it as, okay, we're happy for you, but that it ends there, that either of these teams are going to win, that the West winner is going to win the thing, or do you think that's oversimplifying?
I think the West winner is going to win. I think the Knicks will give either team if they get past Cleveland, and I think they will. And I'll tell you what, I'm almost thinking the way when we last saw the Knicks, and they've won 7 straight games, which is a playoff franchise record, and that they're both ends of the court playing at a huge. I'm sure Mike Brown is kind of mad at some, they couldn't just continue right off the bat this series. If they play like that against Cleveland, they'll sweep Cleveland. I think they will.
Mm-hmm.
But getting to the next round, I think I would not favor that. I give them maybe 2 games. I don't think they could force a 7th game. I think the other 2 teams, Oklahoma City and San Antonio, are superior. But, the Knicks, the way they and look, they caught a break. Atlanta, once they figured out the Knicks that CJ McCollum's the only guy who can really beat them, they won 3 straight there. Yeah. And then Philadelphia was a mess.
Yeah.
Because Joel Embiid hurts that team at the, you can't run up and down the court with Maxey because you're going to wait for Big Joel to blot his way up and down the court. So they caught a break. And without, Boston and Detroit, we saw Detroit's a limited team. So this is the perfect time. I'm thinking, although, all of New York thinks the Knicks are going to go in, and I just said they may sweep. If you're Cleveland, you're like, we got a hell of a shot to get to a finals this year.
Right. Yeah.
We really do. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But those, the one thing about the Knicks is there's some bad stuff that happens to them along the lines, and, they'll blow some games at home, and who knows. But the way they played to start the playoffs, I was like, they're going to kill Cleveland. Maybe they will, maybe they won't.
My dream is that Wemby, in homage to the NBA big man past, develops the Kareem skyhook. I mean, imagine what that would look like at his height, because he's like 5 inches taller than Kareem? I mean, that would be, he literally be scraping the ceiling with the ball. It would be going up against the scoreboards. You know what I'm saying?
I know. And I mean, it's, if he wants to learn, if he wants to do that and expand his game that way, getting closer to the basket, why not? Who's going to stop him? I mean, Holmgren did block a shot at his last night.
He did.
I'm still stunned at.
That was a good play.
It's the thing that's exciting about Wembanyama is we don't know what the ceiling is now. We really don't.
No.
Well, right now,
health.
He's awesome.
Health is the issue.
And the health, that's always the big thing with guys.
Yeah.
That's always the big thing. That's the big, in all sports.
Yeah, because can the body...
Guys, careers cut short.
Right.
Careers limited. Not the same player, but boy, if health is, if it's all there in front of him in terms of health, man, we're looking at an all-time player.
So at that point, you're strongly recommended that A-Rod use his New York connections to find a way to get the Wolves into that Eastern Conference to take on teams like Cat and the Knicks, the Bulls, the Bucks, get in that Midwest sphere a little bit and not have to worry so much about meeting them until the finals.
I would not, this is not going to be popular for me to say with your listeners, but I've moved the team to Newark.
if that's what it took.
East, right?
Yeah. To make sure you're in the East. Yeah, well.
They got a great arena. The Devils play there. The Nets played there before they moved to Brooklyn.
Good point.
No, somebody's got to move to the East.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Lakers are thinking about a fly, with Victor out there.
We appreciate you, man. We'll be in touch as this thing plays out, maybe for the finals. Be good, Mitch.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Always good, Dan. Thanks. Take care.
Mitch Lawrence, of course, is a longtime NBA writer. I call him NBA Big Knocker, Dallas Morning News, New York tabloids, and these days can be heard via Sirius XM on the NBA channel early and often. I mentioned Louis in the 5 o'clock hour. Looking forward to that, I guess you could say, vetting visit, post-mortem. Get his view. We talked to him right after the series ended, but Louis had a lot of time to do some insighting and think about some things, including what Billy Guerin had to say. We'll get to what Tim Conley had to say about his Wolves club later in the show, and Lou Ragoose will join us at 4:15. Don't go away.
You're listening to Barreiro On the Fan.
From the 1-800 Ask Gary Traffic Center.
This report is sponsored